So welcome everyone, and it's really wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to have everyone joining in, and the topic for this particular workshop is the nature of the mind. And how I first got involved with this was back in 1980, and at that particular time a relationship had broken up, and I'd gone into depression. And I couldn't understand it because a week before my wife left me, she found someone else and she went off on another relationship. I had contemplated leaving her. So it made no sense. You know, why am I so devastated by this experience? Why has this affected me so much? And I was just lost. I was in depression for about 9 months. And at that time I was living in northern New South Wales, up in Lismore, and someone had said to me, there's a wonderful therapist in Sydney, she works in Balmain, and you could go down and try a workshop with her. And so, excuse me, I came down and in September of 1981 did a breathing workshop. And in that breathing workshop came to a lot of realizations about who I am, what's going on, why I was feeling that way, and things started to make sense. And through a whole lot of other experiences, eventually I decided to come down to Sydney at the commencement of 1982 and started working in effect full-time in this field. And so everything has been about the mind and how does the mind work and what is the mind and the nature of the mind. And when I talk about the mind, what I'm really saying here is the ego or the personality. It's the same thing. It's the way in which your mind has been programmed. And this is particularly important at this time, because I think we're in challenging times, in very unusual times. And even though we've had the coronavirus, and in Australia there have been floods and fires and droughts, I think it hasn't actually started. I think the challenge is going to become far worse. And in particular, it will be the economy. And I think the economy is going to go through a very difficult time. And even though there is this difficult time with the economy, it doesn't necessarily have to impact so strongly on us. It's a matter of holding your state. It's a matter of holding your focus, being aware that these things are happening. There is this major sense of fear, anxiety, stress, and how can you rise above it? And in rising above it, not only do you serve yourself, but in rising above it, you serve other people as well. And in particular, your family and friends and colleagues. Because at the end of the day, of course, everyone's going to get through this and it's all going to be okay. But there are major challenges. And challenge has both a difficult side and a positive side. A challenge can be something quite hard to deal with if it's not really faced and embraced. And a challenge can also be an opportunity to get better, to do things differently. For instance, you know, these last 6 months, I've had to cancel 4 residential courses that I was planning to run at my retreat up on Coolum Beach on the Sunshine Coast of Queensland. And it's forced me to think outside the square. And here we are having webinars and presenting the sort of information that I would have presented at these residential retreats. And the thing about the ego, the mind, the personality, is that it's something that you have inherited. It's something that was in place before you were conceived, not born, conceived. It's something that's come through your ancestral memory. It's something that sits in the society and the conditioning that you've grown up in. It's something that you have inherited. A small piece is to do with the circumstances of your life, possibly 5%. 95% is to do with an inheritance that's come through. If you do nothing, if you allow this to continue in the way that you've been born into, you will become a version of your mother or your father. That's basically what will happen, a better version of your mother and your father. But if you grasp it and really go for it, you can become something more. You can completely release this. And in the releasing of this, you free yourself, you support the people around you to free themselves. And if you have children, then a great deal of this programming does not get passed on to the next generation. And you owe it to yourself because you're born into certain challenges, but those challenges don't define you. Those challenges represent a destiny, a history that you've been born into, and you are to be something greater than that. So with this presentation, I'd like to firstly talk about the mind and 4 characteristics of the mind. And then I would like to talk about the breath, because the breath is one of the mechanisms for neutralizing the effect of the mind. And then I'd like to take us into a meditation that would take about 10 minutes. And then after that meditation, it's open to questions for about 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, please jot them down as I'm going. And if I have time, I'll answer the questions. At the moment, I'm working with the computer and the PowerPoint presentation. So I'm just trying to still get that thing together. But here we go. And so the ego, the mind, the personality, the way I would describe it is that it is a self-induced hypnotic trance. It's something that you do to yourself. It's something that you do because you keep believing it. You've identified with it. You see that to be a representation of you, but it is not a representation of you. You are not your mind. You are not your ego. You are not your personality. They are parts of you, but who you are is something far greater. And the journey as a human is to rise above the mind. So the 4 characteristics of the mind that I'd like to talk about. The first one is that the mind does not exist as an entity. Only thoughts exist. Even though I've said an ego, and I've said a mind, and I've said a personality, there is no such thing as a mind. A mind is a bit like a cloud, a crowd. It's more like a crowd. It's more like a group of individual thoughts that have come together, and that the way in which it's like a crowd, it's the way in which these people relate to each other for that period of time that you could say, yes, this is a crowd. But when you really drill down and you look at each individual there and you move them away, there is no crowd. There is just a collection of individuals that came together and were relating to each other. The mind, the ego, the personality is the same thing. It's not an entity. It's not real. You drill it down to an individual thought. So your thought is really what the thing that matters. And this thought in this moment, if you grasp it, you can change the effect of how you were programmed. And if you can grasp that thought and choose out of that thought through repetition, you will change a habitual nature that your brain gets caught up in thinking. Thinking, in a way, can be thought of as a field of wheat, and you're on one side of the field and you're asked to cross the field and go over to the other side. The first time you cross the field, it's very difficult because you're having to break your way through all this wheat and establish the path. The second time you cross the field, it becomes a little easier because there's already a predefined path. The third time you cross the field, it becomes easier. And the more times you cross the field along that pathway, the easier it becomes. Then after a while, it becomes habitual to cross the field only in that way. That's the way your mind works. So if your mind says, people say no to me, therefore I'm being rejected. No can equate to rejection. If I feel I'm not enough, then I have to prove myself to be something more. If I think that I intrinsically don't deserve love, then I have to prove that I deserve love. I have to prove I deserve love by going out there and doing something, by earning love, by proving to people that I am valuable to be loved. But it's not really to another person you're trying to prove that you're lovable. It's you proving it to yourself. And this is linked to some pattern of behavior, most likely relationship with mother, father, usually mother, not because mother is in any way less than, it's purely because you spend more time in your childhood during those developmental stages with your mother. Your mother, because of a biological function, you spent 9 months in her womb. You may or may not have been breastfed by her. She was your primary caregiver. And so your mother represents the greatest external influence on your psychology and therefore your personality, ego, mind. And so the way she probably treated you was probably the way she was treated by her mother. And it's like punishment reward type thing. And her intent is totally a loving intent. Her intent is totally a beautiful, caring intent. But she just wasn't aware of the effect of her actions. And she's been taught by others that these actions really are okay and have no impact on who we are or on who you are. And it's only years later that you've got all these ways of thinking that represent you, but they don't represent you. And so there is no such thing as a mind, and there is no such thing as an ego. And it's more as thinking of it being a crowd. When you think of the mind, you can think of minding. You can think of thinking, thoughting. That's more what the mind is. The second element, the second characteristic of the mind, the reason why I'm explaining the characteristics of the mind is the more you understand how the mind works, the more likely it is that you'll be able to control your mind. You'll be able to control your thinking, in effect. And you can choose out of your thinking because you really do need to control your thinking. You need to make choices around the way you think, recognize whether that particular thinking is resourceful or unresourceful. The second component is thoughts exist separate to you, and you are not your thoughts. You can have a thought, but that thought doesn't have to represent you. A dramatic thought that I had was many years ago, my wife at the time was pregnant with our daughter, and she must have been 7 months pregnant. And then we were talking or doing something, and I had this impulse to punch her in the stomach. And I thought to myself, what? That's ridiculous. Why would I want to punch my wife who's pregnant with our 7-month daughter in the stomach? Really, it was like, and what we were saying was quite benign. There was nothing really negative or bad about it. But I had this urge, you know, oh, I feel like punching her. And then I went away and sat down and started thinking about it. And as I was thinking about it, a realization came to me. And here I am, 7 months in my mother's womb. And my mother had come to Australia in 1947. I was born in 1949, in July of 1949. So it was sometime, probably April, whatever, of 1949, you know, working out 7 months, April, May, something like that. And my mother was boarding a bus and speaking to my father and said to my father, in Greek, will this bus take us to where we want to go? And someone sitting in the back of the bus shouted out to my mother, don't speak that wog language here, speak English. And my mother had only been in the country for 18 months or something. There's no way she understood English. She's speaking to my father. And in that moment, that statement that person made from the back of the bus felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. And here I am, years later, with my wife, with our 7-month-old baby, and I'm having this urge to punch her in the stomach. And I'm thinking, where's that coming from? What's going on? This isn't me. I don't have to believe every thought I think. Just because a thought pops into my mind, I have a choice as to whether I wish to act on it. I have a choice in whether I wish to make it real or not real. The greatest wounding that occurs to most people is that they are identified with their thoughts. They believe they are who they think they are. You aren't. In conventional psychology, it is I think, therefore I am. And that was a philosopher, French philosopher during the 17th century, Descartes, came up with that idea. And in that instance, you know, it was a breakthrough in a lot of rational thinking. But it's not the case. I am, therefore I think. There is an element of self, there is an element of awareness, there is an element of consciousness that exists outside of thinking. And so your thoughts exist separate from you. Your thoughts do not define you. You are something more than your thoughts. Another significant characteristic of the mind or of thinking or of the ego is very few. I put here no thought is yours, but really 99%, maybe 99.99% of thoughts are not yours. They're not yours. These thoughts are to do with something you've inherited. Einstein is reputed to have said it's very unusual to meet anyone who has an original thought in his entire life. Most people were regurgitating thoughts that other people had given them, that they had read or they'd heard about. Most of us no one has a real, you know, most people don't have an original thought. No thought is yours. And your thoughts are something that you inherit. And you've got to see thoughts as alien objects that come in, and you can choose to accept them or reject them. But you have the choice. These thoughts do not represent you. And these thoughts are not your thoughts most of the time. And so this thought's popped into my mind. Is this to my advantage? Is this something I want? And The next piece is thoughts have power. And so thoughts can change reality. It might be getting a little theoretical, but when I was a student at university, initially I studied biology, chemistry, mathematics. And when I was studying chemistry, we were studying the structure of an atom. And in studying the structure of the atom, I was told back then, back in 1970, whatever it was, 71, 72, that an atom was made up of a neutron and a proton. That was its nucleus. And going around the atom was an electron. And that was the basic, say, hydrogen atom. And then as atoms grew in complexity, you had more neutrons and protons and more electrons in the shell. And then as researchers started to examine the atom, they saw that there were subatomic particles, more than just neutrons and protons, mesons and pisons and all these other things, quite exotic things. And then they continued to keep studying the nucleus of the atom and found even more subatomic particles. And then a point was reached in this research where they said to themselves, this is impossible. How can we have so many subatomic particles? And then the theory came that the observer, the scientist watching and observing the splitting of the atom and the particles that are coming off, influenced the particle they observed. And eventually they kept refining it and refining it until they came to the conclusion that the nucleus of an atom is an electromagnetic relationship, and its way it presents is a function of the observer. And so then the whole thing changes. They're even saying that solid matter really doesn't exist. Solid matter is a form of mind. And the mind you hold, the beliefs you hold, the personality that you've got is going to influence the very structure of the physical environment. Now, that's, you know, sounding very out there, but an everyday example where science has shown where mind has power is this thing called the placebo effect. With the placebo effect, what we're looking at is that they're doing medical research and they're checking to see if a particular newly developed medication is effective. And so they have to do a double-blind test. So what they do is they will have the medicine, they will have a neutral medicine, which we call it a sugar pill, that looks exactly like the medication. Both the people running the test and the participants in the test, neither of them know which is the real medicine and which is the pretend medicine. And then they get the research papers in. They may have 100 people taking the new medication, and they'll have 100 people taking the sugar pill. And what they'll find is it's quite common that 40% of people taking the sugar pill show a marked improvement in their symptoms purely because they took the sugar pill. And then you may find that people taking the medication, only 50 or 60% of people actually showed improvement from taking the medication. Often the medication shows a better improvement than the sugar pill, but there are other rare occasions where the sugar pill will show a significant better healing rate than the medication. And this is purely a function of the belief that the patient has, the belief that I've been given medication by the doctor and I trust the doctor, I trust this medication, therefore it's going to work for me. And surprise, surprise, it works. Now, the medical profession kind of misses that and says the placebo effect isn't something like an anomaly. It really doesn't have any real impact. But the placebo effect is very hard evidence as to the way in which the mind affects your reality. It's what you believe will manifest and occur in this thing. And so thoughts have power. How you think will affect you. If you wake up every day and think, I don't feel well, I'm not good enough, it won't be long before you won't feel well and you won't be good enough. If you wake up every day and you think, I believe in myself, I can do it, this will be okay, initially it may feel like nothing is changing. But if you keep going with it, you'll find, aha, it's changed. It's become different. And so thinking has power. And so you have to be careful of not identifying with your thoughts, thinking that you're your thoughts, understanding that thoughts are really your mind, or the way you're conditioned is really boils down to just one thought. Ultimately, no thought is really yours. Thoughts are inherited. And fourthly, whether you believe any of the other things, you know, it's an entity, they exist separate from you, no thought is yours, they really still have power. And to allow thoughts to run uncensored is really something that can be debilitating and keep you small and have you caught up in the whole experience of stress, anxiety, and survival. And I think we're about to enter a time where our sense of survival will be tested. And it really requires you to rise above the mass confusion that's occurring. And that the only way you can ultimately do that is by managing your thinking and your physiology. In another webinar, which you're more than welcome to come and join, I want to talk more about the physiology, but that is your physical body and what you can do physically to change it. But just right now, the simplest thing you can do physically to help your mind work better is get physical, get physical, get physical. Go to the gym, work hard, breathe hard, work physically hard, not mentally and emotionally hard, but just physically be at the gym, go for a swim, go for a run, push bike ride, swim. If you aren't physical enough to go to the gym and do those sort of things, or to be physically strong enough to go for a run or a bike ride, then the next thing is a bath. I believe a bath is a secret. I think a bath is one of the most powerful ways to rebalance your endocrine system, to rebalance the left and right hemispheres of the brain, to initially, it may raise your blood pressure, but overall it will lower your blood pressure and it'll bring your blood pressure back to a normal state. It will also help with excessive sugar in the diet, and if you have your insulin out of balance, bathing is a significant thing. There are different ways to bath, and you need to build it up, or go and jump in the water. Or if you're unable to do any of that, you can't go and have a bath, you can't go for a run, you don't have a bath, then I would recommend go and lie in the sun, find a sunny spot in your house somewhere and spend 20 minutes a day just lying in the sun. 20 minutes is enough without it creating a skin problem. And just lie and relax. You need to take control of your thinking. The other thing that occurs is with our thinking, it's very easy to imagine that someone else is wrong. It's very hard to tell the difference between a rational thought and a projected thought. You know, we call it discernment, where I'm making a judgment about something not working and then having a projection of my fears. You know, I look at someone and I think they're going to make a mistake, they're incompetent, and then I treat them in a particular way, which makes it really hard for them to succeed in what they're doing. And what we need to do is look at, how am I projecting that on? And so sometimes I can't always gauge my rational thinking. Sometimes I can't even tell that I'm stuck in a program that is really neutral and debilitating and affecting me. And so I have this thing called on and off. And so it's really very simple. You're either on or you're off. If you're on, you can possibly trust the way you're thinking. I call it connected. If you're off, you're disconnected. I don't feel connected to these people. I don't feel okay with these people. I feel very shut off from these people. You're open, or the opposite side of that would be you're closed. Another way of saying it, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling okay, or I'm feeling sad, I'm not feeling okay. The general way we describe it is I'm feeling loving or I'm feeling fearful. Another way of thinking is understanding or critical. I can say 100%. All disconnected, closed off, sad, fearful and critical thinking is neurotic. I'm not saying you are neurotic. I'm saying the thinking process in that moment is neurotic. And you need to recognize this neuroses that's running you at the moment. Because if you don't recognize that neuroses, it will just lead you down to catastrophizing, to worrying too much, to being too defensive, being too scared to try something, to making yourself more small and withdrawing from the world. Fundamentally, freedom requires you to systematically look at your limitations, and those limitations need to systematically be dealt with. I'm not saying throw yourself over the cliff, but if you're at the top of the cliff and you need to get to the bottom of the cliff, well, you have to go and find the path from the top of the cliff to the bottom of the cliff. And to go from the top of the cliff to the bottom of the cliff could be 100, 150 steps. It's not one jump. And so it's a process of working, and now you're down off the cliff onto stable ground, maybe on a beach or whatever it happens to be. So it's a process. But systematically, you must face the things that inhibit you. You must face the things that limit you. And all you need to do is face it and just keep working towards it. One step, one step, one step, one step. Easy peasy, nice and slow. Don't push it. It's too hard, you know, and then the whole thing just works itself out. I've got an affirmation here, and so I'm just going to put it up on the screen here, and then I'd love you to say it out loud. Let me go back, I went too far. And the affirmation is, I'll say it once and then I'll repeat it again. And while you're sitting there where you are, I invite you to say it out loud as well. The purpose of doing that is you integrate it deeper into your unconscious. You integrate it more into who you are. So take a deep breath. Or I'll say it first. I don't have to believe every thought I think. I choose to believe the thoughts that empower me and others. So let's do it together. Take a deep breath and we'll do it one step at a time. I don't have to believe every thought I think. I choose to believe the thoughts that empower me and others. Just choosing out of it. I don't want to keep thinking this way. And so this is a strategy, changing the way I think about things. One of the ways of escaping the thinking is recognize that you are not feeling okay. You're either on or off, you're off. And then it's as simple as just choosing out of it. I don't want it. I don't want to. And initially it requires effort, and then it becomes effortless. It sounds too simple, but basically that's all it is. That's all it is. You've just got to recognize the fact that your mind is caught up in something that's not resourceful. Choose out of it. I don't want this anymore. I don't want this anymore. There is another way of doing it, which is to run this affirmation that I zero that thought. I zero that thought. I zero that thought. I zero that thought means I don't want to think that way anymore. It's better to have no thought. There's an affirmation that says, I know nothing. I make no decisions. I forgot the question. And so it's like, I know nothing. I know nothing. And because I know nothing, I make no decisions. And because I know nothing and I make no decisions, I stop asking questions. It is what it is. And all I have to do now is sit here and manage my physiology and not have a story about it. And I've got a little thing here I'm going to show you in a moment. And years ago, when I was learning to do all this stuff, I attended a course called Creating Wealth with a guy called Robert Kiyosaki. And he's a finance educator, and he teaches people how, money works, how to invest and do things like that. And this must have been, I don't know, late 1980s. And I was attending one of his advanced courses, and it was called Creating Wealth. And in Creating Wealth was being run in the ballroom at the Centrepoint Tower in Sydney. And this one particular exercise was musical chairs. There were approximately 200 people participating in the game, and we had 100 chairs back to back down the center of the ballroom, and there were 200 people in effect. The music would start to play, and then as the music played, the staff would come in and take 30 chairs away. And then the music would stop, and then people would try and sit down, and 30 people would be eliminated. And you would work your way. And it so happened, we got to the stage where there were only 2 people left, me and this other person who was a very successful property developer, very, very wealthy. He was, I believe, at the time, he was pretty good looking, and he was very fit, and he was much bigger than me, and he was stronger than me. And I thought, under all those things, he's better. He's got more money. He's younger. He's better looking. He's healthier. He's stronger. That's the thought, And most guys, it's a very macho type of thought. It's like, we judge each other by what we have and what we can do rather than who we are. And so particularly back then for myself. And so this was the deep insecurity I'm running. And there's one chair and there's 2 of us. And we're going around the chair. And as we're going around the chair, whenever he was in front of the chair, he would go really slow. And when he was at the back of the chair, he would go fast. And I was just basically trying to pace myself. But while I was doing this, I was running one thought in my mind. And the thought that I was running was, I know nothing, I make no decisions, I forgot the question. I know nothing, I make no decisions, I forgot the question. What I had learned to do was manage my state. What I had learned to do was to manage my anxiety. Here I am in a challenging situation, and the thing that's going to get me is my anxiety, because no one defeats you. You defeat yourself. There are no, ultimately, if you truly want to understand the nature of metaphysics and how relationships work, and that there are no enemies. All that's occurring is a manifestation of an unresolved consciousness within yourself. Now, to try and directly go into that consciousness and understand it and dismantle it is a complicated process, and it's quite sophisticated and often requires a lot of support. But you don't need to go there. All you need to do is keep neutralizing the effect of this consciousness, throwing up limiting thoughts. And so the thoughts coming up, oh, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm not going fast enough. I couldn't allow one of those thoughts to come into my mind while I was engaged in this activity of going around the chair with this guy. And I'm saying, I know nothing. I make no decisions. I forgot the question. The music suddenly stopped and I'm on the wrong side of the chair. And without even thinking, I put my hand on the corner of the chair, I flipped the chair around and I sat down and I won. And I did not even think of doing that. I hadn't planned that I was going to flip the chair. I was just in the moment dealing with my anxiety, dealing with my anxiety, dealing with my anxiety. I zero that thought, I zero that thought, I zero that thought. And in the process of dealing with my anxiety, I just behaved spontaneously. And in behaving spontaneously, I won it. And I won this, they gave me a prize. And back in those days, Kiyosaki used to have this idea that, you know, people in business were one of two things. You were either a shark or you were salmon. And so he would say, don't be salmon, otherwise the sharks will eat you. And so as a win, they went and got me a stuffed shark. And so here is my stuffed shark. Now, I don't believe in being a shark, but what I do believe in is managing your anxiety, managing your physiology. Doesn't matter what the story is out there. Doesn't matter how paranoid it may seem, or how criminal, or how difficult, or how whatever's going on. It doesn't matter. All that matters is how you are handling it. And what matters is you handling your physiology, you handling the way you feel. And you do that primarily by saying, I don't want to believe this thought. I don't want to believe this thought. I don't want to believe this thought. And you just have to sit with it and sit with it and sit with it. And if you do, the level of anxiety comes down. It takes effort. Initially, it takes effort. There is a resistance. Even though one part of you says, I don't want to be angry, a part of you will be addicted to being angry. Another part of you will say, I don't want to be afraid. But given half a chance, you'll be running around breathing through your mouth, being anxious all the time. There's an addictive part of your personality. You've got to realize that is not a negative comment. It's just an objective statement. It's just a recognition. This is how we all are. This is how I am. It's taken a focused effort over a period of time to rise above that. I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed. I haven't started from a place of where it was easy. I was born into a very difficult circumstances, and it's been a process of resolving and lifting and resolving and lifting and resolving and lifting. And that's what's occurred. Now it's easy. I live in paradise. I live with angels. I live, metaphorically speaking, with beautiful people and in an amazing environment. But this has been a process of releasing my limitations, releasing my fears, and moving forward. That is your destiny. Your destiny is to be a success. A measure of who you are is not the weakest link in the chain. It's the strongest link in the chain. You are destined to become more. And if you say, more is the wrong word. It's not more. You're not going to be more. It's to be in harmony, in peace with where you are and what you are. That's it. To be here. And so the next piece I want to talk about is the magic of breath. Breath is right up there. You can live for almost 40 days without food. You could probably go 7+ days without water, but you'd be lucky to go 10 minutes without air. And yet it is one of the most significant, one of the most important things we can do, and we take it for granted. And breath works on so many levels. On a basic physiological level, a physical level, it is the ingesting, the taking in, the inhalation of oxygen, nitrogen as well, but primarily oxygen, O2. It comes into the lungs, it's then distributed into the bloodstream, and it's taken by 50 trillion cells that exist in your body. And these 50 trillion cells are a community. It's like housing estates, and they need to have the water and the electricity and the garbage and all the utilities supplied to them and all the things taken away from them. So your bloodstream is one of the major mechanisms for taking nutrients and oxygen to various parts of the body, and to take the carbon dioxide and the waste products out of the body. And so oxygen is a major component of that. And so with O2, we metabolize, in other words, burn up glucose to produce energy. If you're doing work or exercise and you need more energy, then you'll usually breathe harder. Breathing harder supplies more oxygen, which enables more glucose to be metabolized, which in turn produces more energy. So there's a direct link between breathing and energy, breathing and vitality. The majority of people are mid-chest breathers. They breathe here. They don't breathe in the upper part, the clavicle, and they don't breathe down in the diaphragm. The simplest thing to do is take in a deep breath. Let's just do that right now. Take in a deep breath through your nose. In through your nose. Hold it. Take it a little bit more. Hold it a little bit more. And now let it out. You can let it out through the mouth, let it out through the nose. Hold it out. Breathe in through the nose. Hold it. Breathe in a bit more. Hold it. And now breathe out through the nose. Right down. Hold it. Hold it. Breathe out. Now breathe in through the nose. That's the most basic, fundamental level. Breathe when you think of it. Breathe when you get an opportunity, particularly when you're out in nature and you're in an environment. The magic of breath. Here's this girl standing on a beach with her arms up, breathing fresh air, breathing the ions, the free electrons, each that sit in the atmosphere, and it's so vital and energizing. Breathe through your nose. The second thing about breathing, it also has an emotional level. And this emotional level is about, you will breathe differently depending on how you feel. If you feel angry, you will tend to breathe through your mouth, lowering your diaphragm, and it changes the whole way you're breathing. And if you're afraid, you tend to breathe higher in your chest, and it's a bit more like a panting breath. Anger breath is shift that, breathe through the nose. Take the breath up to the top of your lungs. Let the breath go down to the bottom. And then slow the breathing, slow it down a bit. So you're breathing at the rate of an inhalation on 2 seconds, 1, 2, possibly 3. And an exhalation, 1, 2, 3. That brings your breathing to approximately mid-chest, slows your whole body down. Breathing in that way also balances the left and right hemispheres of the brain. There is also a way in which the breathing affects your thinking. If you're confused, you're worried, you're not sure what's going on, best thing to do is breathe through your nose. Spend 5 minutes calming down and then start to think. what you're going to do, what's going on. I often meditate in the mornings. If I'm feeling I've got a big day coming on and I really just want to prepare myself, I will often go and sit and meditate, minimum 15 minutes, often 30 minutes. And I do this one meditation called Anapana, which is a breath awareness meditation. So I'm breathing in through my nose, out through my nose, in through my nose, out through my nose. Nice and chilled. It takes 5 minutes or so. I calm down, and then the next thing that happens is my mind just clears. And by the end of, say, 15 minutes, I'm back to feeling very, very centered. And if I need to, I could focus on whatever I want to focus on all the day, but I would recommend stay meditating, be really calm, come out of the meditation, stay where you are, and then think about what you want to do for the day, rather than spending the meditating or the attention breathing through the mouth as a way of mentally processing a problem. There is another way which is called spiritual. So you can breathe and 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 take yourself into deep meditation. And it can bring you to a point of release, and you shift perspective. Most of us see ourselves as a finger. If you breathe and you get the energy up high enough, you will change your perspective, and you'll no longer see yourself as a finger. You'll see yourself as a hand, and you'll see these other people as being part of you in some way. It's a major shift in perspective. It's a thing that occurs with the meditating and the breathing. But breathing is one of the most powerful things you can do. The power of breath is both voluntary and involuntary. You can choose to do it. Most of the time it's just happening. It's one of the fastest ways to increase the energy in your body. It not only supports and supplies oxygen to your body, it also chi prana. It's a subtle energy that works through the meridians. Something beyond the conversation we can have right now, but in another webinar, I'll definitely be talking about moving energy, moving prana through the meridians of the body. It's just another way of balancing your physiology. Keep it simple. So breath is both physical and metaphysical. It is both the way to be in your physical body, and it's also a bridge to something else. You are not just a physical body. You are not just your emotions. You are not the thinking process. These are part of you. You are something greater. You are something far greater. Part of your empowerment, part of your inner peace, part of your ability to go through life with ease and grace is recognizing this other part of you, because it will give you a dimension that will always enable you to rise above the petty stresses of what occurs every day. So the one significant thing I want to have you go away when it comes to breathing is to breathe through your nose. Breathing through your nose filters the air, it humidifies the air, it warms and cools the air, it increases the absorption of O2, and it balances the left and right hemispheres of the brain. But the greatest advantage, I believe, in nose breathing is it brings you into present time. It brings you into present time. When you're in this present moment, nothing can happen to you. You're okay. The story in the head stops. The most significant benefit of breathing through the nose is present time awareness. So the message I want to give you in finishing up the formal part of the seminar, the webinar, is on an everyday level, breathe through your nose. Breathe through your nose. To slow down your metabolism. To stop the mind from going into overthinking. To balance the left and right hemispheres of the brain. To filter the air, to humidify the air. And to increase the absorption of oxygen into your lungs, because the oxygen is coming in a more balanced, easy rate, and then your lungs are able to absorb it more easily. Breathe through your nose. I've got 2 more parts to finish. We've got a little under 30 minutes, about 20 odd minutes or so, 25 minutes. I want to take you through a meditation. I call this a golden light meditation. It's similar to the St. Francis of Assisi meditation, or metapama. St. Francis of Assisi was a saint from the Christian religion, and he was put in prison and was about to die, and in that process he had all these revelations. And of all the prayers that I have experienced, the Francis of Assisi prayer has to be one of the most powerful prayers you can do, one of the most powerful meditations. And metapama is a meditation of gratitude from the Buddhist tradition, and I've called this the golden light meditation. And the purpose of this meditation is to energize you, is to heal you right in this moment, right now, to aid the healing of your family, to energize and put into the environment that you come into a positive sort of experience. So I'm going to get you to prepare for the golden light meditation. So take in a deep breath and just sigh it out. And I want you to sit with your spine straight, head erect, and eyes gently closed. And remain absolutely, perfectly still. And breathing in and out only through your nose. Take your awareness to the sound of your breath. Take your awareness to the sounds around you. Awareness on the sounds inside of the room. Take your awareness to the sounds outside of the room. Now feel your buttocks. Feel where your body is making contact with the surface beneath you. And imagine coming out of the bottom of your spine is a thick orange tree root. And it's working its way down through the floor and deep into the earth below. Imagine this thick orange tree root continues to grow and spread, traveling deep into the earth until it's at least 60 meters deep, and it's spread out. It's like a massive tree with a huge root system beneath the ground. And coming up through these deep, thick, strong roots into the base of your spine is a radiant orange light. This is Mother Earth energy. She loves you and she nurtures you. This light travels into the base of your buttocks, up through your spine, and fills your heart with radiant orange energy. Feel the energy in your heart. Feel the energy coming up your spine and going into your heart. Meanwhile, out in space, past the boundaries of our solar system, is a beam of luminescent blue light, traveling faster than light, entering our solar. As it enters our solar system, it heads towards Earth. It reaches the outer edges of the Earth's atmosphere and passes straight down through the roof above you and into the top of your head. This is Father Spirit energy. He protects and provides for you. And from the top of your head, this luminescent blue light passes into your spine and down into your heart, merging with the radiant orange Mother Earth energy already in your heart. As the orange Mother Earth energy and the blue Father Spirit energy merge in your heart, they become a luminescent, radiant, yellow gold light. You are a transformer. You transform Mother Earth and Father Spirit through your heart and bring it into existence on planet Earth. Your heart fills with this yellow gold light, and it travels to every single cell in your body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, to the extremities of your fingertips. Your body is completely saturated with this yellow gold light. And at the same time, even more Mother Earth energy is rising up through your spine and into your heart. And Father Spirit energy is pouring down through the top of your head and into your heart, both merging into a yellow gold light and radiating out of your heart and into the atmosphere around you. This yellow gold light fills the room, the building, and any people nearby. The yellow light continues to pour out of your heart and fills the nearby suburb. And it continues to keep pouring out and fills your entire town or city, and continues to grow and spread and merge with other yellow gold fields of light until it fills your entire country, continent, and the world. And I want you to picture a blue-white planet Earth suspended in an inky blue space, surrounded by an aura of yellow gold light. And see or feel your heart and the hearts of millions of people pouring their love onto Earth and all the beings that inhabit her. Take a deep breath. And I want you to say this in your mind, repeating this after me. I choose to be an agent of love, joy, and peace for the greater good of all. I choose to be an agent of love, joy, and peace for the greater good of all. And from your heart, keep beaming this yellow light to planet Earth and say in your mind after me, where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is illness, let me bring health. Where there is conflict, let there be peace. Where there is injustice, let there be justice. I seek not to be understood as to understand. I forgive all. I am grateful for all that I have. May all beings be happy. And while you sit there, breathe through the nose and feel the benevolence that's in your heart go to every organ in your body, the muscles, and to all the people you love and the people that you work with. Take a deep breath. And return your attention back to the screen, back to the room. Now, John Lennon said, imagine a world, that's full of love and peace. And imagine, it's one of the most powerful affirmations you can think of, imagine. And so imagine the world the way you want it to be, not the way that we're being told it has to be, or it is. No, we imagine what we want. And I have a parting statement from Dr. Seuss, and it was quite funny, so I thought I'd put it in. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what to do, and you are the one who'll decide where to go. It's your choice. It's your decision. And, thank you for listening to me and for being part of this. This is going to be a series every 2 weeks for the next 6 more weeks. I'm going to run a series on the mind, and I want to talk about particular ways in which the mind's been programmed and the major influences on the way the thinking process has occurred. The personality of your mother, the personality of your father, and also looking at a process which I call forgiveness, radical forgiveness, completion and letting go. So each one of these webinars will have a theme. But for now, we've got just about 15 minutes. I'll do the questions. Also do, if you need to drop out or someone's moving, do feel free to go to my website, michaeladamedes.com, and book in for any or all of the webinars, and they'll be each fortnight at 6:30 at this time. So looking at the questions, I have just, let me stop sharing, come back to everything, and I have at this moment opening questions. Here we go. Andre H has asked, I'm looking at another screen, is saying, you think personality comes from between lives, or our personality is just changing very slowly by working on it, reflecting life to the next lives as long as we wake up and work on ourselves? I'll read the question again, I'm not 100%. Andre H, you think personality comes from between lives, question mark, or our personality is just changing very slowly by working on it, reflecting, etc., from life to the next life as long as we make up and work on ourselves? I believe our personality does come from both between lives and from an ancestral memory that we inherit through our genes, and it also comes through a culture. Culture has a memory. You know, the culture of Australia is based on 200 and something years of European habitation here, and it's also based on a history of England and English, which goes back to French and also William the Conqueror and also Roman times. And so we have a mind thinking process, ego, that is based on the past, from our cultural memory, from our ancestral memory, and I also believe it does come from between lives. And the destiny that we're born into is really the greatest opportunity for you to advance and become more magnificent. The way spirit or the universe works on progressing is to put you into a straitjacket of challenges. This straitjacket of challenges can't be broken. The only way you will get out of the straitjacket is to shape shift. You have to look within yourself. You have to change who you are. And as you change who you are, this straitjacket won't fit and it just drops off. So the process of being put into a straitjacket and being given the challenges and the destiny of your life may feel quite unfair to some people, but ultimately it is for you to rise above those limitations and to become great, because that is who you are and that is your destiny. So spirit works very different from the way personality, ego, how we would think things are. We need to understand our psychology. This webinar is about the psychological aspect of mind. Understanding the psychological aspect of mind is an advantage. It does give you a perspective on how it's put together, but its ultimate destiny is something beyond the mind. And so that's it. You've got to work on yourself, because that's the only way you're going to get out of the destiny of it. And the Buddhists say the mind you die on, I mean the programming you die with, will be the programming, the mind you'll be born back into. So if you don't get it now, you'll die and you'll have it sitting there and you'll get it next time. So a way we go with it. The next question is, my understanding is that each incarnation is very different, one to provide enough and diverse experiences for soul to grow and learn from all kinds of emotions and challenges. Yes and no. You know, we need to, with each evolution, we need a diversity of experience. If we've had an experience in one life where we were victims, then in another life we may come back as aggressors to understand the other side of why people behaved in such an aggressive way. And then we may come back into a future life to free ourselves from both paths. But each of us will have a specific ray of learning, and we will experience the dichotomy, both ends, both hell and heaven. And in going through hell and heaven, we'll transcend and we'll go beyond heaven and hell and become something greater and something more. Because heaven and hell ultimately is really a perspective. There is an ultimate peace. There is this ultimate sense of centeredness and being here and in harmony with myself. If our ego personality, someone's saying, if our ego personality is 95% ancestral and happens before we are conceived, therefore the same for our children, how does us doing the work as parents help change our children's conditioning and programming? The nature of transformation is through the mechanism by which conditioning is transferred. In part, it occurs through the soul memory that child has when it incarnates into a physical body. So it already has a degree of its destiny. Then in part, it is also picking up an ancestral memory. And this ancestral memory is transferred to the child in part through the genetics, but primarily through the behavior of the parents. And the behavior of the parents, well, it's actually not even the behavior, it's called the resonance of the parents. So it's the way in which your mother or your father felt that will affect your, the way in which the child picks it up. So it's the resonance. So if I heal it within myself, I change the frequency of who I am. I change my resonance. My resonance is free of that inhibition. If my child is under the age of 7, their resonant field is very, very fluid, and they can easily raise their resonance quite high. The resonant field starts to become ossified, it starts to become rigid as soon as we learn to control our emotions. As soon as we learn to control our emotions, we lock down and solidify the resonant field. And so the resonant field is the key thing with understanding how it gets transferred to from the parents to the child. It's a great question. The next question is, Cynthia, I'm wondering where one is so hurt and blamed and the finger is pointed at, how does that represent the past life? Basically, I am blamed a lot. If you're blamed a lot, it really reflects a sense of a part of you that is carrying shame. There's a part of you that feels that you are to blame. Now, there's a frequency somewhere within you that carries the frequency of being responsible. And probably if you're attracting a lot of blame, unintentionally, of course, if there's a frequency within you that makes you vulnerable to people blaming you, people can blame you, but you don't have to feel blamed. People, if someone blames you, the big picture on blaming is this. If someone blames another, you're responsible for how I am feeling. Well, they're not taking personal responsibility themselves. And they are making external circumstances and other people the creator of their feeling state, their existence. I am the power within my life. I am the source of power within my life. I am the source of love within my life. And if I'm not finding that love, and if I'm not finding that power within my life, then I've given something away. So straight away, to blame someone is to, you're caught in the victim, they're caught in the victim aggressor. Now they can do that. They can blame as much as they like. But then if they blame and I take on that blame to be real, then there's something in me that feels guilty. There's something in me that feels incomplete. So their projection of making me responsible for how they feel is resonating with me. So why is that resonating with me? Invariably, in these instances, you're taking on the pain of others. And invariably, it's mother or father. So the child is taking on the pain of their mother or their father. Or the child is taking on the pain of another. Or the child is feeling the pain that mother felt about blaming herself for someone else. So you can have the pattern of blame or guilt taken on because you yourself feel it about yourself, or because you had a loving connection with someone during a developmental time while you were growing up, and you picked up their sense of not loving themselves and feeling okay. It's a big question. Someone's saying, very powerful meditation. I got very emotional when two of the energies were connected and burst into tears, starting breathing heavily. Why was that? Because you experienced the truth of what is. And you are the mechanism by which the very high frequency energy of mother nurturing and father spirit come down into earth, and your feeling function is open. And this is a blessing. This is really saying you're sensitive, you can feel, and you're feeling the nature of what is. And if you can feel it and it affects you so strongly, then every now and then keep doing it. And what I will do in the next week or so, we will get that meditation. I will either redo it, or if we can cut it out of the recording, I'll put it in an MP3 file and have it on my website, michaeladamedes.com. And if you go looking for it, you'll find a link to it, and you can download that meditation. So it's available to you, and you can put it on your iPhone or iPad or whatever. And then on occasion, when you're feeling a little bit not okay, you could play it just to lift yourself again. So that's a wonderful thing to do. I'm going to finish with this last question. What is the line between separating ourselves from our thoughts that we have, observing the monster, and acknowledging the thoughts we have as a result of us being in the world, hugging the monster? Is there harm somewhere along the way in isolating one's thoughts as not mine? Okay, first question is separating our thought from our thoughts, and it really is a level of your own personal development. If you're still, there are 3 stages to the evolution of working with thoughts. The first stage is being able to witness your thoughts and see them being separate to you. Now, the fact that they're separate to you doesn't mean you don't take responsibility for them. You still take responsibility for them. They still are thoughts that are coming into your psyche. So there's something in you that resonates with those thoughts, but they are not your thoughts in the sense that they are your creation. They are a consequence of something that was deficient in you. They are a consequence of an environment that you grew up in. You still need to take responsibility for them and recognize them, but you do not have to say, they represent something lacking in me. The second level of understanding what's going on is hugging those thoughts, is that you can use the thoughts that come in because now you have more awareness and you can allow yourself to embrace those thoughts and see them representing something that still may be untransformed. And so they then are embraced as a mechanism for understanding an transformed part of yourself. In the first instance, you have to learn how to disidentify and not get hypnotized by the thoughts. That's why we say they're not your thoughts, and you separate yourself. The second stage, when you get to the next stage, you can embrace those thoughts and see those thoughts as representing an untransformed part of you so that you can release them. The third stage in doing this is you have no attachment. Thoughts come and go. There is no monster thoughts. There is nothing that goes on. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. You just see, oh, okay, these people have these sort of thoughts. You're telepathic. You're aware of those thoughts floating around, but that's just an observation. That's just walking past a tip and noticing, you know, there's a whole lot of garbage sitting out there. It doesn't mean anything about that. You just notice it. You don't need to sit there. You can walk past it. Or you can go somewhere and you can look at a garden and you can look at some beautiful thoughts that are going on there. Again, you just watch the garden. It doesn't mean anything. It's just an observation of the environment in which you find yourself. Then you are beyond all that. And so it's completely different, you know. Is there a harm? Is there a harm somewhere along the way in isolating one's thoughts as not mine? No, there's no harm. All it does is, if you say these thoughts are not mine, all you're doing is disidentifying from them. All I'm really saying here is, I did not create these thoughts. These thoughts inhabit some part of my psyche. I'm observing those thoughts. I've disidentified from those thoughts by saying they're not mine, but I still recognize that those thoughts coming into my awareness represent something for me to understand and resolve. That's it. So there's no harm. There's no harm. There's no harm ultimately in anything. You know, there is lost opportunity. And then all that occurs is you go round and round and round and round, feeling unhappy, you know, if you want to call that harm. But really, life is here to empower you to your greatest sense of self. I'm going to finish with those things and questions and answers. And I want to, I've got these other programs, these ones, the nature of the mind, programming the mind, present time awareness, emotional well-being, mother, father, and the power of forgiveness. So they're coming up in the next fortnights along. I really invite you to come along and be part of it. The next webinar is next fortnight, 6:30 to 8:30 Wednesday, Tuesday, the 5th of May. The topic is the programming of the mind, primal negative beliefs. And if you want to join, just go to michaeladamedes.com. So thank you very much. Thank you for being part of this. And it's been a pleasure and a joy sharing the time. So thank you very much.